So friends, here I am to talk about something which is for life, that is pro-life. Sorry, I just went through the other way. So we all have the feelings for a woman who comes to us for pregnancy, during pregnancy, when she is having trouble. So our endeavor is always to give her a good carry home baby rate. And we all know that we have been using progesterones left, right, and center. Let it be oral, let it be vaginal, let it be injectable. Whatever way, we have been using progesterones to let the pregnancy grow. Maybe it has been indicated or it has been empirical. So now we are looking at ways of boosting endogenous progesterone. Here I am to talk about a new drug on the horizon, which gives us a lot of promise that it'll be a game changer and it'll boost endogenously produced progesterones so that we don't have to supplement from outside, and which will be well balanced and will be natural to the body. So we all know that early pregnancy failure, that is a threatened abortion, is a common pregnancy complication where progesterone levels have been shown to be lower in women with non-viable pregnancies and in threatened abortion. So attaining adequate and sufficient progesterone levels is an important and feasible target. So in cases of bad obstetric history or recurrent pregnancy loss, we also see in subfertility encompassing history of preterm birth and miscarriages. That is recurrent pregnancy loss for any reason. A luteal phase insufficiency just suggested would be the underlying cause in such a case. So attaining again adequate and sufficient progesterone levels is a feasible target. So we have varied roles of progesterone in pregnancy. It maintains early pregnancy. It is critical. The name itself suggests it's a pro means for and gesterone means gestation. So it is pro-gestation. It is critical for implantation, sustains decidulization, controls the uterine contractility, and promotes maternal immune tolerance to the fetus. Thus, attaining adequate and sufficient progesterone levels is very important. So, goal of the treatment is a reproductive success in patients of early pregnancy failure and with bad obstetric history. The prevalence of pregnancy failure is pretty high. When we see in luteal phase insufficiency, the incidence is 3.7 to 20%. Rate of pregnancy loss is to the tune of 25 to 40%. In threatened abortions, the incidence is 25%. We lose 50% of the pregnancies. In recurrent pregnancy loss, which is seen in about 5% of the patients, there is 10% pregnancy loss. In all of them, insufficient progesterone secretion from the ovary or the corpus luteum is the main underlying cause. So adequate serum progesterone is supposed to be around 25 nanograms per liter. Despite achieving adequate serum progesterone levels, pregnancy viability is only 72% in all ages, all fertile ages, which further declines with advancing maternal age, which has been very well presented in this chart, that it is around 72% in all ages from 20 to 45 years. In 22 to 34 years, the adequate serum progesterone levels is seen in 80% of the pregnancies, and in ages above 35 to 45, it's only seen in 58%. So the average comes out to be 72% progesterone levels, which are supposed to be adequately present to continue the pregnancy. So current progesterone preparations which we are using for the success are either micronized progesterone, oral or vaginal gel, intramuscular injections, and synthetic progesterone, which is dydrogesterone. The success rate is nearly versus placebo. In micronized oral progesterone, it is 68.5% versus 63.3%. That is an negligible difference. In vaginal, a little bit more, 63% success versus 51%. In vaginal gel, again, the success is slightly more, 24.7% versus 19.4% in placebo. In oral and in these micronized progesterone oral preparation, there is unpredictable absorption and fails to reach a constant blood level because of first hepatic pass. Intramuscular injections, the success rate is a little bit better, 32.5% versus 18.3%. But compliance becomes a question mark because these are oil-based injections and they are very painful and they lead to abscess formations as well. So we come to synthetic dydrogesterone, which can be given orally. The success rate is 87%, definitely more because the compliance is better versus 76% in placebo. And efficacy can be a question mark, but yes, the success rate itself says that efficacy is definitely good. So despite supplementation, success rates vary comparable to placebo. So drawbacks of current progesterone therapy are variable and unpredictable absorption, variable plasma levels of progesterone, variable efficacy, unpredictable results, unwanted hormonal adverse effects, and unwanted pregnancy loss, which could have been potentially saved. So current progesterone preparations, their pharmacokinetics suggest that oral progesterones have a bioavailability of less than 2.4%. And dydrogesterone, which is another oral progesterone, the bioavailability is at least 28%. And campesterol, which is a progesterone, endogenous progesterone boosting phytosterol. This is a naturally occurring phytosterol in plants, and the bioavailability is 13%. Oral progesterones have different metabolites which have different effects, and dydrogesterone has 20 alpha dihydroprogesterone. And in the relative potency, the active dose is only 0.19 milligram in oral progesterone, 0.12 milligram in these are the metabolites, and 0.52% in dydrogesterone, and around 15.6 milligrams in campesterol. The excretion of campesterol is no urinary excretion, it is transported through LDL. And dydrogesterone is 63% excretion in urine, and oral progesterone, there is 42% excretion via urine. So there has been a global recommendations. We study about the leading societies, the RCOG. It says a meta-analysis to assess progesterone support for pregnancy showed that it did not reduce the sporadic miscarriage rate. However, this meta-analysis was based on 3 small control studies, none of which detected a significant improvement in pregnancy outcome by supplementation from outside. And ASRM says that supplementation of progesterone can be given orally, vaginally, or intramuscular. There is no evidence that progesterone is beneficial in natural unstimulated cycles. The question of whether supplementation in the face of reproductive aging may be appropriate has not been addressed in a rigorous scientific manner. This is the opinion of ASRM. And Escher recommends effect of progesterone, both vaginal and oral, has been studied in women with unexplained recurrent pregnancy loss. And although study conclusions vary significantly, the guideline development group recommends not to prescribe progesterone in women with unexplained RPL based on recently published PROMISE trial. Thus, according to the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, the treatment guidelines in abortion, this is a Government of India guidelines. They say that progesterone supplementation by all 3 leading societies, there is insufficient evidence. So evidence needs to look beyond empiric progesterone supplementation from exogenous source. Endogenous progesterone is produced by corpus luteum or placenta, by corpus luteum till 7 to 10 weeks of pregnancy, using cholesterol as the base, which is converted to pregnenolone, which is converted to progesterone. By corpus luteum till 7 to 10 weeks, after 7 to 10 weeks of gestation, the placenta takes over. Even in pregnancy, it is the same thing. If the patient is non-pregnant, then she will definitely get her periods. So luteal phase insufficiency, when endogenous progesterone is not sufficient to maintain a functional and secretory endometrium that allows normal embryo implantation and growth. So this is LPD, that is luteal phase deficient progesterone present endogenously in the body. And this diagram, this aim is to boost the progesterone levels to ensure normal embryo implantation and growth, which we know is very, very vital. Sufficient progesterone levels are required for embryo implantation and early pregnancy growth. So endogenous progesterone production is under the impact of luteinizing hormone in the luteal phase through cholesterol, which is stored in the esterified forms in the ovaries. Then it converts into pregnenolone in the corpus luteum, which converts it into progesterone, which is released as progesterone, which can be used endogenously. This is endogenous regulation of the progesterone production. Boosting this endogenous progesterone production may improve the baseline progesterone levels, which is the topic of talk of today's presentation. So advantages of boosting endogenous progesterones are one and many. It improves body's baseline progesterone levels. It's a natural synthesis, natural control, reduces luteal phase progesterone if insufficiency, well tolerated and safe because it is endogenously produced. So how to boost this endogenous progesterone? It is through a drug which is coming as ProLife, which is a combination of campesterol, which is a natural plant esterol, which is similar in structure to cholesterol, and other smaller agents like magnesium bisglycinate, equivalent to elemental magnesium, vitamin E, vitamin B6, zinc, and selenium and beta glucan, having different actions which boost the production of endogenous progesterone. So, campesterol is being presented as an endogenous progesterone booster. It is a steroid derived from plants. It is structurally similar to cholesterol. So then, which is a source of ovarian hormones, cholesterol. So campesterol can easily substitute as a source, as a substrate for ovarian hormones. Has the only difference has a methyl group in C24 position, except as versus cholesterol. The structure is practically the same. So in campesterol in plasma, it is carried in lipoproteins, that is LDL, similar to cholesterol. And progesterone is produced using campesterol by genetically modified recombinant strains of bacteria through fermentation process. So this is an industrial production. So the pharmacokinetics is campesterol is absorbed from the upper jejunum. Approximately 13% of ingested campesterol is absorbed. After absorption, it is incorporated into mixed micelles before they are taken up by enterocytes. Within the enterocytes, phytosterols are not as readily esterified, so they are incorporated into chylomicrons and then enter blood circulation. Campesterol is cleared by hepatic clearance, and clearance rate of campesterol is 6 times higher than cholesterol. So it achieves a higher concentration in intestinal lymphatics, demonstrates preferential uptake and higher absorption rate over other sterols. Tissue distribution of absorbed plant sterols, inclusive of campesterol, closely parallels that of cholesterol and are subjected to similar metabolic reactions. So the homeostasis of cholesterol metabolism, this experimental model study shows important lights into pharmacokinetic parameters of phytosterol, that is campesterol metabolism. Accumulation of plant sterols is associated with compensatory decrease in cholesterol levels, so that total sterol content of the plasma and liver are not significantly altered. So this action of campesterol is being utilized and studies are being conducted that maybe it is good in reducing atherosclerotic patches as well. In addition to playing an important structural role in cell membranes, sterols are also required for synthesis of adrenal and gonadal steroid hormones, which we know that cholesterol is a substrate for adrenal and gonadal steroid hormones as well. Apart from directly being involved in steroidogenesis, sterols create a reserve for ready supply in steroidogenic sites such as adrenals and ovaries in the form of cytoplasmic lipid droplets. So this experimental model shows another aspect that sterols such as campesterol in the ovaries are esterified to form campestrol esters and provide a ready supply of source that may form steroidal hormones like progesterone. So progesterone synthesis from campesterol is completely physiological. endogenous progesterone synthesis is totally under control of GnRH and LH axis, so totally under body's internal hormonal control. Requirement dictate speed of conversion to progesterone. So there will be no unnecessary overload of progesterone in the blood, leading to liver disorders or maybe leading to more side effects, which we see when we are giving exogenous progesterone. Campestrol appears to be only sterol, where tissue campestrol concentrations can be modifiable through external intervention. Concentration of campestrol is 10 times higher in ovary than in other tissues and adrenals. So we know that ovarian hormones would be produced more in comparison to adrenal hormones. Following administration, campestrol is preferentially concentrated in the ovary, as we have seen that 10 times higher concentrations are there. So justified additional endogenous progesterone synthesis from campestrol in ovary following administration would definitely boost internal progesterone formation. So suggested mechanism of action is campestrol esters are stored in the plasma membrane of the luteal cells, and once they enter under LH signaling, they enter through endocytosis, and in the mitochondria, it is converted to pregnenolone, and then it is converted to endogenous progesterone in endoplasmic reticulum, and then it is excreted. So this creates a ready reserve utilization post LH and HCG signaling converted to endogenous progesterone. So that would be the most natural form of progesterone which we can gift to a lady who is having pregnancy losses, maybe because of progesterone deficiency. So it's a preferred over cholesterol in luteal steroidogenesis. Cholesterol leads to formation of so many hormones: cortisone, aldosterone, testosterone, estradiol, and progesterone. But campestrol is only dedicated for progesterone, that is pregnenolone and progesterone, a specific progesterone precursor. So thus it boosts endogenous progesterone status. We again come back to the same slide. The campestrol in the corpus luteum converts to endogenous progesterone levels, and to this adding empiric progesterone supplementation maybe gives adequate progesterone levels in a lady who is deficient and continues her pregnancy. Thus, it may boost the progesterone levels, and survival and pregnancy rates also may improve. So the efficacy of campestrol in boosting endogenous progesterone synthesis has been studied at a dose of 1.6 grams per day. A double-blind safety study in 203 subjects was done, with a rise in progesterone levels of 0.3 to 1.2 nanograms per ml in healthy individuals, that is 400% on 13 weeks of treatment. So this in red. They are showing the increase in the progesterone levels, which is seen in the early 13 weeks, where the role of progesterone coming from the corpus luteum is very, very vital to sustain the early pregnancy. So in placebo-controlled study, campestrol increases endogenous progesterone level. It has been seen in 26 control subjects, and campestrol subjects were 28. Dose was 432 milligrams. Rise in progesterone levels in control was 20.5 micrograms per 5 liter of body serum. But 1 milligram of campestrol increases progesterone levels by 0.05 micrograms. Thus, 120 milligrams will increase approximately progesterone levels by 5.69 micrograms. So this is serum progesterone campestrol versus control was 5.1 microgram per liter versus 1 microgram per liter in controls who were not given campestrol. So campestrol, although we are giving, we have to study the safety profile also. Consumption for 1 year appear to have no side effects. Basically, it is a natural product which is appearing in our fruits and vegetables. So the adverse profile has to be better than an exogenously given progesterone. They have appear to have no adverse effects defined as reported adverse events or underlying undesirable changes in clinical chemical parameters, hematological parameters, and urine analysis. The absence of side effects is in agreement with the observation in earlier shorter term clinical and safety studies. Suitable throughout a survived pregnancy or pregnancy in subfertility till term or in premenopausal women, that is, an elderly woman who's pregnant. In the United States, generally recognized as safe, that is grasped by FDA, this drug, Kempestrol. The Scientific Committee on Food of the European Union also concluded that it is a safe for human use. In animal studies, no estrogenic or teratogenic effects were observed in humans. The products do not cause any side effects and the compliance has been good. No report of any genotoxicity, mutagenicity, and carcinogenicity has been seen from Kempesterol. So Kempestrol's safety profile has been endorsed by so many agencies: FDA, GRAS, European Food Safety Authority, Indian, this is Food Safety Standards Authority of India, and FAO. So these are big societies with the endorsing the safety of Kempesterol. The teratogenic profile, we have seen no evidence of a teratogenic effects, no adverse risk of associated, has been associated with decreased levels of fat soluble vitamins like carotene and tocopherol was seen on consumption of phytosterols. No teratogenic side effect and no toxicity were reported with phytosterols. Studies have shown that Kempesterol is safe in terms of subacute toxicity, chronic toxicity, teratogenicity, and developmental toxicity. So overall, it has got a very good safety profile. Two generation reproductive toxicity and fetotoxicity study revealed no maternal and fetal adverse events related to phytosterols. Further, more importantly, there were no side effects or organ damage observed in offspring of the first and second generation births. So it's giving us a very good promise of a safety profile. So the conclusion is Kempestrol can be used safely in pregnancy for boosting endogenous progesterone synthesis. So now the role of other elements which have been added in the drug: beta-glucan binds with estrogen receptors, reducing estrogen receptor and actions and dominance, thus increasing progesterone actions, both endogenous and empirically given from outside, and thus the outcome has been improved. Magnesium again increases luteal synthesis, progesterone synthesis. When magnesium is not present, luteal phase defect is seen, no endometrium lining for uterus in uterus. So risk of miscarriage or RPL and subfertility. When magnesium is there, then it improves new blood vessel formation and reduces the risk of miscarriage and RPL and improves subfertility. So thus, magnesium increases luteal phase progesterone synthesis, new blood vessel formation is improved, reduces estrogen dominance, improves progesterone action, reduces luteal phase insufficiency, miscarriage, RPL, and subfertility. Beta-glucan and magnesium, thus as combined, they can bind. Beta-glucan binding to estrogen receptors reduces estrogen dominance. Magnesium enhances luteal progesterone synthesis. So this is enhancing progesterone synthesis. This is enhancing progesterone action, and thus they are synergistically acting to increase endogenous progesterone, acting at ovary and the endometrial levels. Vitamin E improves corpus luteal function, thus increasing progesterone and reducing the risk of miscarriage. The vitamin E reduces the blood flow impedance, that is, it increases the blood flow to the corpus luteum, which thus improves progesterone synthesis. And Kempestrol also, when with Kempestrol being the substrate, with vitamin E present alongside, would definitely give us improved progesterone synthesis. Selenium, vitamin B6, and zinc also have roles as micronutrients. They are necessary for corpus luteum formation and viability. Thus, progesterone synthesis is improved and maintenance of pregnancy is assured. So the rationale of combining all these elements, the micronutrients and Kempestrol, the Kempestrol, magnesium, vitamin E, selenium, and beta-glucan are directly increasing the progesterone concentrations. Magnesium, vitamin E, zinc, and selenium reduce the oxidative stress. Magnesium, vitamin B6, they reduce the estrogen dominance. Beta-glucan improves progesterone receptor expression. Thus, the progesterone which is present can be better utilized. Vitamin E and B6 improve luteal function. So all of these, which have been combined in this wonderful drug ProLife, would give a synergistic action, and the aim is to boost the endogenous progesterone or the activity of exogenous progesterone which is being given, and thus improve the carry home baby rate. So the mechanism of action is again the same. We are just going on in a different way. The raw material is campestrol, which is progesterone specific raw material going to corpus luteum, magnesium, vitamin E, vitamin B6, selenium, and zinc, improve viability and functions of corpus luteum. Beta glucan is reducing the estrogen dominance, and empiric progesterone again are acting at the endometrial levels. The output, thus, they all are acting to increase the endogenous progesterone production, and thus thus the progesterone activity improves. So indications of giving the drug would be a pregnancy leading, which has been with a history of miscarriage, recurrent pregnancy loss, or a threatened abortion, infertility and during assisted reproduction, and luteal phase defects. So the therapeutic regimen in threatened abortion, we have to start it as soon as spotting during pregnancy is reported, and start along with empiric progesterone, continue as long as required, can be safely continued to 34 weeks of pregnancy in any sort of pregnancy loss. In recurrent pregnancy loss or in bad obstetric history, patients with previous history, we recommend immediate supplementation with ProLife on confirmation of pregnancy along with empiric progesterone if you feel like. When we become more confident of using the drug, then maybe we can stop the supplementation with empiric progesterone from outside, and then we can continue till 34 weeks. In subfertility, again, it is the same. We have to start from the luteal phase, recommended cyclically in post-ovulatory phase for 15 days along with empiric progesterone, at least for 3 to 6 cycles until confirmation of pregnancies, and then thereafter they can be continued till 34 weeks of pregnancy. So the dosage is 1 tablet once a day. It's giving us a very good promise. Thanks for the patience. Any questions? I'll now stop sharing.
Hello, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, good evening.
I congratulate you for the nice and comprehensive this article and the details of the progesterone. But do you have any personal experience of using this?
Yes, I have used it and the outcomes have been very promising. The patients are happy, and gradually I am withdrawing the exogenously giving progesterone and maintaining the patient only on ProLife.
Okay, when do you withdraw the, do you do any
exogenous progesterone?
Yeah, when do you
exogenous progesterone in pregnancies who are starting with luteal phase insufficiency. Yes, okay. I give it till 13 weeks. After 13 weeks, we start thinking that the placenta has taken over, good placentation has taken place. Now we just need a substrate for the endogenous production. So that ProLife will give you campestrol, and cholesterol per se is present in the body. So that is the time we can withdraw those exogenously given progesterone and maintain the patient very confidently on only campestrol.
Only this one.
Yes.
Okay. And another question is, any adverse side effects of this medication?
Never at all, because it is a naturally occurring sterol. It is present in plants, in fruits and vegetables. Rather, it has a beneficial effect in cardiology as well. I said there is a report which says that it decreases the atherosclerotic patches, and it has been shown to have a role in cancer patients as well. So those studies are going on, those trials are going on. I think the trials are much farther than we are. We are starting to use this campestrol in recent days only in pregnancies. But in cardiology and in oncology, the studies have been going on for a long time, and the results have been very, very promising.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Dr. Rajiv, you are on mute. So you are on mute. I think we can unmute.
Yeah. Sudeep sir? Yes.
Sir, my concern about the use of this progesterone is that the very use of the any progesterone is that there are no proper guidelines,
No
because
guidelines.
most of yes, and most of the and this is being used, rather it is being misused. This
Misused.
drug is being misused throughout the world, and this is the reason that most of the patient, because it is overused in the pregnancy, so this is causing much havoc over the liver.
Sir, as of now, you are very, very correct. But then this drug gives us a promise of giving a natural supplementation, which will
The
be
second thing is,
immediately boost.
let us presume that the liver of the patient is normal. So natural cholesterol is being produced in the liver. So there is no need of supplementing it from the outside. This is the one
Sir,
point.
the advantage with Campestrol, I would say, is Campestrol is totally dedicated. The concentration of Campestrol is 10 times more in ovaries rather than in adrenals. So the cholesterol is a base for so many other hormones, which are adrenal glucocorticoids as well and mineralocorticoids. But Campestrol is basically a substrate only for ovaries.
There is only one point where this is differing from the cholesterol.
Yes.
So I fail to understand one thing, that how it is possible that this drug is only producing the pregnenolone and the progesterone in the body and not producing the other hormones in the body.
Why is it
And
not
second,
getting substituted by cholesterol in other organs
Yes.
as well? You are right, but then these
Yes.
studies, so you have to go through those. That's what I mentioned. The cardiology, the use has been going on for a longer
because
time.
Sterols,
Sterols.
ma'am, because the phytoestrogen and the phytosterols, in the recent studies, it has been found that overuse of these drugs also, there are few concerns about that
Concerns
has
would
been shown.
definitely come. Yes, definitely the concerns would come.
And then
But
in the elderly patients, because most of the cases, one thing is that before we use any progesterone, we must actually prove that there is really a this corpus luteum deficiency. But most of the studies and most of the literature world over, it shows that there is very rare incidence of corpus luteum deficiency. So it is all empirical treatment, which is, and this is probably the one drug, progesterone is the one drug which is being misused all over the world.
All over the world. You're absolutely right. I agree with you. Sir, if you and me are right about it, then what we can think is, instead of giving those progesterone, which are heavy on the liver of the patient, exogenous, once we start getting confidence with this drug, Campestrol, then we can start thinking that maybe even Campestrol is not required in the later on. If the pregnancy continues, see, we need that reassurance. The patient needs a reassurance rather than giving exogenous progesterone.
Yes, because most of the cases, it has not been proved beneficial, even if you supplement with the and the IVF persons, IVF clinics, most of the IVF clinic, they are basically overloading the patient with the various progesterone. They are giving it in the injectable form, in the form, and in the vaginal route. So probably
IVF requires essentially, because
and probably in the induced cycle, it is more needed. The progesterone is more needed for the luteal phase support, rather than it is being used in the general pregnancy. And it has been shown that
absolutely right.
Even if you compare the cases of threatened abortion, which are not treated with the placebo, and those who are treated with the progesterone, the same.
No significant difference has been seen. You're absolutely right.
So probably this exercise, this presentation and this exercise is effort in futile at present, I can say.
No, sir. It would be, sir, I would say it would be a very big booster, that in case the consultant and the patient, they need a reassurance. Even if it appears to be a placebo, suppose, as you say, it appears to be a placebo, that placebo effect per se would give that confirmation to our theory that exogenous progesterones are not required. And then gradually,
and then one of the slide you have predicted is projected is there. You have shown that oral progesterone are more effective as compared to the vaginal route.
No, sir.
Yes,
No, no,
that has been.
oral, the absorption is very erratic. There is a first hepatic bypass. So oral,
Yes.
the concentration drops very fast. Vaginal, definitely the route is better as a,
Definitely,
yes.
but
Because
kindly check your initial slide. There was one slide which was showing this.
okay, maybe I missed that. Otherwise, I would have got it corrected. No, but the thing is, it is always there.
In the initial slide, you have projected that the oral route probably, from that slide, it appears that the oral route is probably more effective as compared
No,
to
no,
the.
sir, you're confusing. Sir, you're confusing. I was talking about micronized progesterone giving orally versus dihydrogesterone, which is a synthetic progesterone, which can be given orally. Which can be given orally, and the bioavailability is definitely better. No, sir, you are confusing. Yes, that is the. I got it now. Where you are pointing to, the dihydrogesterone has definitely got a very good role.
No, dihydrogesterone. It was only the micronized progesterone which you have projected in that slide.
No, not
anyway, you can check that slide and
okay.
So that was another concern, and then the elderly persons, patients, where probably these problems are more.
Right.
And there you are loading the patient with the Compestrol, which is though it is you have told that it is a phytosterol. And the any derivative of the cholesterol or cholesterol-like drugs, probably I don't know what will be the safety of these.
Say it is competitively being absorbed versus cholesterol. So it is substituting the cholesterol. It is bringing down the levels of cholesterol in the body. In elderly, it will have that cardiac benefits also, sir.
And then the third thing is that the study has been conducted only on 26 control patient and 28.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're absolutely right. The number is too small. The number is too small. So then again, if we explore it, again your presumption would appear to be right, that if this drug gives us a benefit, that we feel very safe giving this drug instead vis-a-vis exogenous progesterone, then definitely we can stop giving anything later on. But at the moment, the patient needs reassurance, the doctor needs reassurance.
Probably at the moment, it needs more and more studies before we really go for this.
Definitely, it will need more studies. Definitely. That's what I said. It is in the domain of cardiac people and in oncology. This drug has been in their domain for a far longer time than it has been in our domain. So we'll have to look critically over there as well.
So I will request the format people that provide us more and more literature regarding and more studies, and we'll also explore from the Google about this drug, and then we'll come up in the next meeting.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you.
Yes. Good evening, ma'am.
Ma'am,
thank you for such a good
another question,
lecture. I have.
Continue, Dr. Meenakshi. Continue.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Yes, we need these studies, more patient for this to prove this as a good drug. And my second question is, you are using this drug from the 13th week. Why you are not using this drug from the start of the pregnancy? Because
no, beginning
you are replacing.
See, I told you till 13 weeks. I add this drug. See that
after 13 weeks, na?
No.
As soon as pregnancy is confirmed.
As soon as the pregnancy
is confirmed, this is being
till 13 weeks.
Yes.
You are using this,
or maybe till 34 weeks. Also, it's your call.
34.
Yes. Because this drug required 13 weeks for its levels to attain, na?
Yeah.
That means
you are does not require 13 weeks for the levels to attain. No.
You have shown in one slide that the levels are different in first week and the 13 weeks. Levels are different after use of 13 weeks, ma'am, of this drug.
In 13 weeks, the levels are rising as the pregnancy is growing. The requirement for progesterone in a pregnancy increases. So it is showing a side-by-side increase, parallel increase. That is the documentation. That it does increase the progesterone levels.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Ma'am, is there any apprehension in using this with the hepatic disorders and PIH?
Not as such, because because the progesterone production by the body is under a GnRH control, okay, which is endogenous, GnRH and LH control. So the body itself will never produce anything in excess which can harm itself. The body has an internal, beautiful internal metabolism regulation system. So it'll definitely not have excess of progesterone, which can damage the liver. Although the exogenously applied ones can, because the blood levels would be definitely more.
Okay. Okay. Right. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
So let us call it a day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Nice
you, ma'am.
interacting with you people.
So, Dr. Vandana, ma'am, Nishat here. Thank you very much on behalf of our FAMID team. It was really a wonderful session, and we thank you for your support. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll just end the session.
Okay, thanks. And bye all of you.
Bye.